An unexpected birth in a foreign land turned a family's greatest joy into their most terrifying nightmare when a beautiful albino baby girl entered the world, only for a mysterious black and red band placed on her tiny ankle to become the instrument of her abduction, exposing the dark underbelly of superstition, greed, and human trafficking that still haunts parts of our modern world. This is the harrowing yet ultimately inspiring true-to-life tale of Ava and Malcolm Sinclair, whose daughter Amari became a symbol of resilience against exploitation, reminding us that even in the face of unimaginable danger, love, courage, and compassion can triumph. What began as a celebration of new life in Nairobi, Kenya, evolved into a profound journey of fear, discovery, and redemption, teaching us that differences like albinism, often misunderstood and targeted, hold unique beauty worth protecting. Just as English learners must navigate unfamiliar grammar rules and cultural idioms to achieve fluency, this family learned to confront the unknown with vigilance and heart, transforming tragedy into a broader lesson on human dignity. In the golden afternoon light filtering through modest curtains in Nairobi, Ava Abios Sinclair, an American woman of Kenyan descent, massaged her swollen belly at 38 weeks pregnant, her husband Malcolm by her side offering water and encouragement as they honored family tradition by staying in her mother Lucia's home until the baby reached 1 month old. Contractions struck suddenly, far earlier than expected, leading to a frantic drive to St. Francis Hospital, a smaller facility with peeling paint that contrasted sharply with their planned Chicago delivery. There, amid dim lighting and sparse staff, Ava delivered a baby girl whose pale skin, translucent blonde hair, and striking crystalline blue eyes revealed albinism, a rare genetic condition occurring in about 1 in 20,000 births globally, with higher prevalence in parts of Africa due to recessive genes. Historically documented in ancient Egyptian art and 19th century European explorations where albino individuals were sometimes exhibited as curiosities or persecuted under superstitious beliefs. The staff exchanged concerned glances, but the parents, thrilled despite the surprise, named her Amari Masigo Abayoa Sinclair, with Masigo meaning blessing in Setswana, embracing her as perfect while Lucia warned of dangerous local superstitions where albino body parts were falsely believed to bring wealth, a tragic reality rooted in historical witch-doctor practices persisting into the 21st century. As reported by organizations like the UN and under the same Sun Foundation documenting murders and abductions in Tanzania, Malawi, and Kenya. Vividly, Ava cradled Amari for skin-to-skin contact, tears flowing as she traced the baby's delicate features, her heart swelling with fierce maternal love that deepened emotionally from initial shock to protective devotion, mirroring Malcolm's reverent awe as he called Lucia to meet her granddaughter. Yet unease crept in when the doctor insisted on nursery protocol and later a nurse attached a black and red monitoring band to Amari's ankle, claiming it tracked vitals for albinism complications like vision issues or skin sensitivity, conditions explained as lacking melanin pigment, making sun protection essential, much like how English learners must shield their progress from exposure to bad habits by using consistent practice. Philosophical teaching here draws from Stoic wisdom, as in Epictetus's emphasis on focusing on what we control, our response, amid uncertainty, relevant today as parents globally navigate medical systems. Modern English learning ties in through advanced vocabulary. Albinism, from Latin albus, meaning white, an idiom flying under the radar for the baby's rare, unnoticed status until birth, and, in the nick of time, for potential rescues. The family bonded deeply in the shared room with Mira, who admired Amari's divine eyes, but suspicion grew over the band's insistence despite Mira's doubt from her own experience. Discharged with the band, they settled into Lucia's cozy nursery with elephant print curtains and a handmade crib, establishing routines of feeding and rest while researching albinism's challenges, including historical figures like the albino singer Salif Keita, who turned stigma into musical triumph in Mali. Amari's fussiness that night led Malcolm to remove the band, revealing irritation and bringing peace, a pivotal emotional shift from trust in authority to parental instinct. The next morning's horror, empty crib, tampered window, missing band, plunged them into panic, realizing the device was a GPS tracker for a black market network exploiting albinism's value, historically parallel to colonial-era exploitation of African resources and people. Police involvement uncovered Nurse Mendes and Dr. Kamal's complicity with Roberto Urruti, a sophisticated ring selling children for rituals or collectors, evoking real cases like the 2000s albino hunts in East Africa documented in BBC reports. Emotional development intensified as Ava's exhaustion turned to anguished determination, Malcolm's steadiness to fierce resolve, and Lucia's wisdom to action, philosophically underscoring Ubuntu. I am'd because we are, an African philosophy of interconnected humanity. For English learners, this chapter builds narrative comprehension with phrasal verbs like double over, bend in pain, and encourages reflection on cultural nuances in storytelling. As police chased leads to Mira's address, and a boy Mifa guided them to the opulent house, hope flickered amid fear, teaching that small acts of courage ripple outward. What overlooked band or warning sign in your life, be it a suspicious opportunity or personal doubt, might you question today to protect what you cherish most, turning potential vulnerability into empowered growth through persistent learning and vigilance? Morning sunlight revealed the devastating emptiness of Amari's crib, thrusting Ava, Malcolm, and Lucia into a whirlwind of grief and urgent action as they searched the house, called the hospital discovering the band's offline status, and alerted police who arrived acknowledging albinism's targeted risks in regions where superstitions persist despite education campaigns by NGOs since the 1980s. Echoing historical witch hunts in medieval Europe or 20th century eugenics misuses of genetic differences. Sergeant Kamani's team noted the professional break-in, footprints, and tool marks, linking it to hospital staff while dispatching to Mira's nearby home, building vivid tension as Ava recalled Mira's curious gaze and neighborhood claim, her maternal instincts sharpening from exhaustion to razor focus. Emotionally, Ava's tears evolved into steely resolve, clutching her engorged breasts as a painful reminder of her daughter's hunger, while Malcolm paced channeling fear into strategy, their bond deepening through shared vulnerability much like couples navigating crises in real-life stories of missing children recovered through community efforts, as in the 2002 Elizabeth Smart abduction where family persistence prevailed. Lucia's calm leadership shone, drawing on her experience raising 4 children amid Kenya's challenges, philosophically teaching resilience from African proverbs like, "It takes a village," relevant universally as modern families combat trafficking via awareness, with UNICEF estimating millions affected yearly. English learning relevance includes idioms, gnawing at him for persistent worry and in the nick of time for timely intervention, with explanations building fluency, engorged, meaning swollen with fluid. Historical elements weave in albino advocacy, like Tanzania's 2008 crackdowns on ritual killings following international pressure, paralleling the family's fight. Neighbors gathered as police pursued, but young Mifa, a street boy watching warily, became key when Lucia and Ava gently questioned him in Swahili-English mix, his hesitation yielding to guidance toward the high-walled house after Malcolm's empathetic approach, avoiding threats. Hiding in an alley, they watched police surround the property, a car distraction fleeing while a teenage accomplice Abram slipped out with a pink bundle, Amari, sedated but safe. The chase's chaos, radio crackles of pursuits and checkpoints, culminated in Malcolm and officers apprehending Abram, Ava reclaiming her daughter, with trembling relief, her emotional arc from despair to overwhelming gratitude fostering family unity. At the station, medical checks confirmed mild sedation, no lasting harm, while interrogations exposed the network. Nurse Mendes identifying targets, Dr. Kamal facilitating, Urruti profiting on black market sales up to $100,000, body parts for rituals, a sinister trade with roots in pre-colonial folklore amplified by poverty, as documented in Amnesty International reports. Philosophical teaching emphasizes Kantian ethics, treating people as ends, not means, condemning exploitation, while universal wisdom from Mandela's forgiveness amid injustice inspires healing. For English learners, dissect complex sentences on cause-effect, the band enabling tracking, and vocabulary like complicity, involvement in wrongdoing. Mifa's bravery, risking his brother, Abram to save Amari highlighted compassion's power, leading Ava to advocate for his guardianship with Lucia, transforming loss into expanded family. This chapter's journey from abduction shock to recovery underscores that vigilance and community save lives, prompting, in facing your own abductions, lost opportunities, or fears, how can one small courageous choice, like daily English practice amid doubt, reclaim your potential and extend compassion to others in need? Reunited at the police station amid bustling officers and formal statements, Ava refused to let Amari out of her arms, nursing her to flush sedatives while Detective Jerry detailed the rings. Sophistication. Hospital insiders flagging albino births for Rudy's network, historically akin to 1990s child trafficking rings in Southeast Asia or Africa's ongoing issues tracked by Interpol since 2000's awareness surges. Vivid character moments captured Ava's protective fierceness evolving from raw panic to empowered advocacy, Malcolm's analytical mind turning grief into logistical planning for embassy contact and swift return to Chicago, and Lucia's steady wisdom bridging cultural gaps, their emotional development forging unbreakable resilience as they process the near loss. Much like real survivors of the 2014 Chibok girls' kidnapping who rebuilt through collective strength. Philosophical reflection draws from existentialism, where meaning emerges from suffering, as in Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, teaching that we choose responses to adversity, universally applicable as families today battle online exploitation via digital literacy. Modern English ties include advanced terms perpetrators, those committing crimes, explained with roots in Latin, and idioms, against all odds, for their recovery, encouraging learners to analyze narratives for plot arcs and moral lessons, enhancing critical thinking. Historical depth enriches with albinism's portrayal in literature, from Victor Hugo's works to contemporary African authors like Petina Gapa highlighting stigma, paralleling global fights against discrimination seen in the 1960s civil rights parallels for genetic minorities. Mifa's interview revealed his street life with Abram, escaping orphanages for survival, evoking empathy as Ava proposed Lucia's guardianship, supported financially from afar. A redemptive act turning trauma into legacy, with Lucia agreeing after thoughtful consideration of rules and education, embodying Ubuntu's communal care. At the station, embassy representatives facilitated safe exit, child services approved interim arrangements, and suspects faced charges, closing the operation that preyed on vulnerability. The family's reflection in the nursery later, with Amari peacefully sleeping, crystallized growth. Ava's worldview shifting from naive trust to informed caution, Malcolm embracing extended family, Lucia revitalized by purpose. This inspires philosophical wisdom that light triumphs darkness, as in historical abolitionist movements ending slave trades through persistent activism. For English education, the story models reported speech, the detective said they had been given, and encourages journaling personal parallels to build expressive skills. As they prepare departure, gratitude for Mifa's heroism deepened bonds, proving one child's conscience alters destinies. What Mifa figure in your journey? A helper risking much. Have you overlooked? And how might recognizing and reciprocating such kindness, alongside disciplined English mastery, expand your world into one of greater connection and impact? Weeks blurred into healing as the Sinclairs navigated embassy paperwork and medical clearances in Nairobi before flying home to Chicago, Amari thriving under vigilant sun protection and specialist care for albinism's visual and dermatological needs, conditions managed today with advancements like UV clothing unavailable in earlier eras when affected individuals faced isolation. As seen in historical records from 18th century European courts, where albinos served as entertainers. Emotional development peaked in tender family moments, Ava whispering stories of resilience to her daughter during night feeds, Malcolm researching support groups, Lucia video calling daily from Kenya, strengthening their triad into a fortress of love while integrating Mifa remotely through updates on his schooling and adjustment. His transformation from street survivor to eager student mirroring real upliftment programs like those by SOS Children's Villages since the 1940s. Philosophically, it teaches karma's cycle where good returns amplified, echoing Hindu-Buddhist concepts alongside Christian forgiveness, universally urging ethical living amid modern challenges like rising trafficking via social media, lures documented by the Anak. English learning relevance shines in reflective writing prompts from this tale, idioms coming full circle for the journey back home with deeper wisdom, vocabulary resilience, ability to recover, with examples fostering nuanced expression. Historical elements connect to Kenya's post-independence struggles with healthcare disparities and superstition, contrasted by progress in education reducing albinism stigma through campaigns since 2010s. Back in their nursery, the family established routines celebrating Amari's uniqueness, playgroups with adaptive tools, awareness events, turning personal ordeal into advocacy, much like survivors of historical injustices, authoring memoirs for change. Mifa's integration brought joy via shared photos of his first uniform, Ava funding books that built his English too, creating cross-continental bonds. This chapter's inspiring arc emphasizes proactive protection and gratitude, with vivid scenes of Amari's first smiles evoking universal parental wonder. What unique difference in yourself or loved ones have you learned to celebrate rather than fear? And how can channeling that acceptance through consistent habits, like English vocabulary building, illuminate paths for others facing shadows? Years on, Amari grew into a confident child with pale beauty and bright mind, protected yet empowered by parents who shared her story in community talks, raising awareness on albinism rights alongside global efforts like the UN's 2013 International Albinism Awareness Day, historically building on earlier visibility from figures like model Sean Ross. The family thrived with Mifa, now a young man pursuing studies, his gratitude fueling ambition in a full-circle redemption that philosophically illustrates hope's endurance, akin to post-World War II Reconstruction narratives. Universal wisdom lies in embracing diversity as strength, relevant as societies combat prejudice through education. For English learners, this complete narrative hones listening, empathy, and advanced structures, idioms like beacon of hope, explained as guiding light. Emotional closure brought peace, with Amari learning her origin tale as empowerment. How will your next small persistent step, in language or life, forge a legacy of courage that outshines any darkness?